Hey guys, this is lesson 8.3. If you're following the lesson plans we sent out, this is the lesson you're going to do for April 14th. It's Tuesday. This is multiply a fraction by a whole number using models. So again, we're continuing with multiplying fractions, but it's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. It says Raphael practices the violin for 3/4 of an hour each day. He has a recital in 3 days. How much time will he practice in 3 days? Use a model to multiply 3 times 3/4. So he'll do 3/4 of practice one day, and he has 3 days to practice before his recital. So it says think 3 times 3/4 is 3 groups of 3/4 of a whole. So this would be 1 group, 2 group, 3 groups. Shade the model to show 3 groups of 3/4. So this is 1 group of 3/4. 2 groups of 3/4, and finally 3 groups of 3/4. So 1 group of 3/4 is just 3/4. 2 groups of 3/4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fourth size pieces, and 3 groups would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fourths. This is kind of what we did yesterday when we did the multiples of 3, or multiples of 3, but multiples of a fraction. We did times 1 times 2 times 3 and then multiply by all of it. So 3 times 3/4, 3 groups of 3/4 would be 9 fourths. Which you could have written this a different way. So he'll practice for 9/4 hours, which doesn't really make any sense. Like, we don't say that 9/4 hours. That doesn't make sense. So in order for it to make sense with the word problem, I would definitely turn this back into a mixed number. Now, if you don't remember how to do that, I'm going to go over that in a video tomorrow just to review it a little bit since it's been a long time since we've done that. But just quickly, this is the same thing as 2 1/4 hours. This is a better way to say that he's going to practice for 2 1/4 hours, which would be 2 hours and 15 minutes. Explain how you could use repeated addition with a model to find the product of 3 times 3/4. We could have, instead of writing it that way, we could have done 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. There's your repeat addition. 3 times, because that's how many times it tells us to multiply in the problem. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9/4. So that's another way you could solve that too. Raphael's daily practice of 3/4 of an hour is in sessions that last for 1/4 of an hour each. So instead of 3/4 of an hour is 45 minutes basically. 1/4 of an hour is 15 minutes. So he practices for 15 minutes 3 times a day, because it says he does 3/4 of an hour a day, but he has them in 15-minute chunks. So that would be 1/4 chunks. Describe how the model shows the number of practice sessions Raphael has in 3 days. So 3/4 represents 3 sessions of practice per day. So if we were to do this for, to compare it to the model that they've given us, this would be 3 days times 3 sessions, because that's what we got from here. Oops, sorry. And that equals 3 times 3 is 9 15-minute sessions over the course of 3 days. He does 3 a day, 3 days. I get you 9 15-minute sessions, or 9 1/4 of an hour of session. It depends on how you want to look at it. Turn the page. We're on page 470 now. I think, is this a part? No, I'll do this part with you. This says use a pattern to multiply. You know how to use a model and repeated addition to multiply a fraction by a whole number. That's what we just did earlier. Look for a pattern in the table to discover another way to multiply a fraction by a whole number. This is really important because this takes, instead of doing all the work that goes into a repeated addition or, you know, finding the multiples or anything like that. This takes multiplying fractions and makes it very quick to do. So with this problem, it was 2 times 1/6. So they drew it out in models for you. Here's 2 models because it does it 2 times, and they shaded the 1/6. So there's 1/6 in this one, 1/6 in this one. So the whole number is the number of groups. Here's 1 group and 2 groups. So that's 2. Fraction, which is the size of your group. Your size of your group is 1/6 in this problem. That's where that comes in that problem. Which means your product, when you multiply those together, 2 times 1/6, 2 1/6 pieces becomes 2 6th size pieces. If I take those fraction tiles out and I put them together, that becomes 2 6ths together. With this one, we have 2 times 2 6, not just 1/6 anymore. Whole number hasn't changed. We're still doing 2 different groups, except for each group has 2 6ths in it. So if you have 2 here and 2 here, because we have 2 groups, that becomes 4 pieces. This one's 2 times 3 6, still 2 groups, but size 3 6 pieces. So that would be 2 groups with 3 6 of a whole is the size of your group. So 2 times 3 6 is 6 6. If you count this up, you get 6. So this is when you multiply, this is a really important part. So I want you to put a couple of stars right here because this is the most important part of this section. When you multiply a fraction by a whole number, so like right up here, fraction by a whole number, the numerator in the product is the product of the whole number and the numerator of the fraction. The denominator in the product is the same as the denominator of the fraction. So like we talked about yesterday, the denominator doesn't change because we're not changing the size of our piece. That's what our denominator always represents in a fraction. It always represents the size of the piece. I'm not changing the size. This is 1/6, regardless of which one we did in here. The pieces are in 1/6 size pieces. All I changed was how many pieces there were. So that's why the numerator is the only thing that changes when you're multiplying fractions like this, a fraction by a whole number. When you get into next year, you're going to get like fraction times fraction. Then your bottom number will change. But for now, you guys are only going to be multiplying whole numbers by fractions. So your numerator is the only thing that's going to change because we're only changing how many pieces there are depending on how many we multiplied by. We're not changing what size they are. So that's why the bottom number, the denominator stays the same as the fraction. You're just going to be multiplying the whole number times the numerator. You change the numerator and you leave the denominator the same. So if I were to write these two side by side, 2 times 3 6, this is the bottom one. 2 times 3 6 equals 6 over 6. So this says down here, when you multiply a fraction by a whole number, multiply a fraction by a whole number, the numerator in the product is the product of the whole number and the numerator of the fraction. So it means your new numerator becomes the multiplied product of the whole number times this numerator up here. So you may have caught on to this yesterday. If you haven't yet, that's okay. It says the denominator is the same as the numerator. So when you're multiplying a whole number times a fraction, you're going to be just multiplying the whole number times the numerator, swapping out your numerator, and leaving your denominator the same. It says, how do you multiply a fraction by a whole number without using a model or repeated addition? So basically what this looks like is what I just talked about. If you're going to multiply a fraction by a whole number, so I'm gonna write this out in words. Maybe it'll be a little easier to kind of see what it's talking about. So multiplying a fraction by a whole number. So I'm going to say fraction times a whole number equals the numerator times the whole number over the same denominator. Okay, so if we compare that to what we did up here, fraction times the whole number, fraction times the whole number equals the numerator So 3 times the whole number, 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And we keep the same denominator as before, which was in this case is the 6. Describe 2 different ways to find the product of 4 times 2/3. You could do it using multiplication. You can also use it using repeated addition. So with repeated addition, it would be 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 4 times, because that's what the problem's saying. 2, 4, 6, 8. So that would be 8/3. You can also do with multiplication. 4 times 2/3. Following this up here, your numerator, 2 times your whole number. That's 8 over your same denominator. That hasn't changed. So you get it either way. Like I said, this is a lot more writing. This is a lot more work. And you have to make sure you catch everything. This is a way quicker, simple trick. You just multiply the whole number by the numerator, and that becomes your new numerator, and you just keep the denominator. Now I'm on page 471. It says find the product of 3 times 5/8. So they drew it out in models for you. So here's one group of 5/8, a second group of 5/8, and a third group of 5/8. So one group of 5/8 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8, so, which makes sense. 1 times 5/8 is just 5/8. Two groups of 5/8, there's 5 here, and the second group makes that 10. And 3 groups of 5/8, 5, 10, 15. So 3 times 5/8 is the same thing as 15/8. Now on this lesson, I'm not going to require you to swap back and forth between improper fractions and mixed numbers. I only did that on the first problem because it made more sense with what the word problem was talking about. But these practice problems for today are really just practicing this trick over here. The numerator times the whole number over the same denominator. So you can leave it as an improper fraction on these for today. So number 2, this is multiply. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4/5 times 2, because I've got 2 groups of them. So 2 times 4/5. Remember, 4/5 times 2 and 2 times 4/5 are the same thing. Multiplication, you can swap those two things around. So if I count them up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which means I have 8/5. And if I just did it without the model, it'd be numerator times the whole number, which is 8, over the same denominator. This over here. Number 3, to give you the model again. So it's 4 times 2/3. So here's 2/3, 2/3, 2/3, and 2/3. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/3. Same denominator. I've not changed the size of my pieces. We're just multiplying to change how many pieces there are. 5 times 3/10. 5 times 3 is 15. Keep your denominator. 4 times 5, 6. 4 times 5 is 20 over 6. All right, these ones, I want you to try these by yourself. I'll do these with you down here, but I want you to try these 6 on your own right here. Don't draw the models though, because you don't really have enough space for that. Try using this trick of multiplying the whole number times the numerator over the denominator. So I want you to pause it right here. And then we'll give you the answers here. So 2 times 7/12. 2 times 7 is 14. And we keep our denominator. 6 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Keep the 8. 5 times 2/4. 5 times 2 is 10 over 4. 3 times 4 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12 over 6. 2 times 5 is 10 over 10. And you could have written this as a 1. That's fine. And then 4 times 2 is 8 over 8. Again, or 1. These are kind of fun down here. These you have to really think through what you're doing in order to figure in the missing blanks here. So let's look at this one. What would we have to multiply 2/3 by to get 12/3? Well, what number times 2 gives you 12? How about 6? And they check it. 6 times 2 is 12, and you keep the 3. So cool. 6 is your missing number here. Same thing with this one. What number times 5 gives us 10? Because the denominator hasn't changed, so that stayed the same. I know that 5 times 2 is 10. And this one, 2 times 7 is 14, so that's cool. Then my missing number is 8ths. So I just need to put the 8 there because the denominator doesn't change in these. All right, I'm going to do a couple of these with you. I'm not going to do number 17, so you can go, if you want to use that to practice with, you can. I'll just write the answers for you here in a second, but I want to do this one with you first. So this is Lisa makes clothes for pets. She needs 5/6 of a yard of fabric to make 1 dog coat. How much fabric does she need to make 3 dog coats? So it says, what do you need to find? We need to figure out how much fabric she needs to make 3 dog coats. So I'm going to put fabric needed to make 3 dog coats. And what information do I need? I know that 1 coat, you need 5/6 of a yard. So 1 coat equals 5/6 of a yard of fabric. And I need 3 coats. So then I'm going to multiply 3 times 5/6 because I need to figure out how much. I need to do this much fabric 3 times to make 3 coats. So 3 times 3 coats times 5/6 of a yard of fabric. Do my trick. 3 times 5 is 15 over 6. So I need 15/6 of a yard of fabric, which doesn't make any sense. We can't say that. That's like a couple yards built into that. So with these word problems, it's better to just put it in whatever form makes the most sense with the problem. I'm not going to go to Joann Fabrics and ask somebody to cut me 15/6 of a yard. They're going to look at me like I have 5 heads. So they're going to ask you how many whole yards do you want, and then what fraction of a yard do you want after that. So I know this one can divide to put this back into a mixed number. 6 goes into 15 2 times, which is 12. So I got 3 left over, which means this becomes 2 whole yards and 3/6 of another yard. So if I go to Joann's and I say, okay, I need 2 3/6, they're going to look at me a little less funny, but they would want me to say 2 1/2. But this works for your answer. So Lisa needs 2 3/6 yard of fabric to make 3 dog coats. Manuel's small dog eats 2/4 of a bag of dog food in 1 month. His large dog eats 3/4 of a bag of dog food in 1 month. How many bags do both dogs eat in 6 months? This one has a couple of steps to it. First, you have to figure out how much dog food is eaten by both dogs at once in 1 month. So I'm going to add 2/4 plus 3/4 to figure out how much these dogs eat altogether in 1 month. So that's 5/4. See, 5/4 of a bag. So that's more than 1 bag at least in 1 month. This is how many do they eat in 6 months. So I'm going to multiply how much these dogs eat, which is 5/4 of a bag, times 6 months. 6 times 5 is 30 over 4. And again, you're not going to go to the grocery store and say, okay, I'm going to buy 3/4 of a bag of dog food. That doesn't make any sense. You're going to figure out how many bags, whole bags that is first, and then what fraction of it is left over. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to go over here and divide real quick, figure out what that turns that back into. Again, I'm going to review this tomorrow, so if you're not sure what I'm doing with this part of it, it's okay. We're going to go over that tomorrow just to review a little bit. 4 goes into 37 times 28, 2, meter 2, so this becomes 7 2/4. So 7 2/4 of a bag. Well, you can't buy 2/4 of a bag at the store. They're going to look at you funny or not let you. So you have to buy 1 more bag. It's going to have some left over, but you're going to buy one more bag. So you're going to buy 8 bags total. So that's your answer with that one. That's kind of interpreting your remainder too. We haven't done that for a little while, but that's where that comes from. Okay. And this one, I'll just give you the answers real quick for this one. 9 times 2 is 18 over 12. So that's this one. 6 times 4 is 24 over 7. That's that one. So 3 times 6 is 18 over 7. And then 8 times 3 is 24 over 12. So those are those answers right there. All right, guys. Your assignment for today is to work through this next page. This is page 473. If you join me at 1:30 on April 14th, I will go over this page. I'll do some of these problems with you on Zoom. And if you don't get a chance to, again, I'm trying to learn how to record the sessions so you can still watch them. Hopefully that works out when the time comes, because I'm making these YouTube videos ahead of time. So we'll see how the week goes with Zoom. We'll see how it goes and if it, turns out like we hope it will. If you have any questions, you can message me and I can help you with that through there as well. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.